Got it. Wonderful. So, um, with that said, at December's Miami-Dade delegation meeting, I spoke in front of the delegation about three items. One is we need support for Biscayne Bay. Two, our bay and oceans are awash with single-use plastics. And three, our current waste crisis in Miami-Dade County really requires some heavy thinking and movement if we're going to stop shipping our trash to Central Florida and Alabama. So Senator Jones, who happens to be the senator representing my district, approached me afterwards, uh, seeking to learn more about my proposals and wanted to hear more directly from the environmental community. So here we are. Senator Jones, thank you for joining us. Would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your connection to the environment and Biscayne Bay? Let's see, we may have muted. He may be muted. Rella, you're going to have to help me manage the mutes.
Hey, Dave, you unmuted me, not Senator Jones.
Okay,
There we go.
look for that.
There we go. I asked him to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
I got you loud and clear.
Dave,
Sorry about that, sir.
That's all right. It's perfectly fine. And I know my the video option is not able to come on right now, but that's perfectly fine. So, David, thank you so much for pulling this opportunity and this meeting together. And to all of you who are on here this morning, thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to come talk about one of our most important, if not the most important thing that we should be talking about in Florida, and that is our environment. As the legislators and advocates and community members, I think we must continue to work together to protect Florida's natural resources and promote the sustainability that we know that we're within this group that we're working towards. I suggested that we have this discussion because now more than ever, we need to be proactive in shaping legislation that protects our future. Besides the legislation my office has in the works, I'm keeping a close eye on other environmental bills, both those we support and those that might pose a true challenge to our goals. And truthfully, looking at how we can be proactive in our approach and how we move forward in the state of Florida, because as you all know and you can see that the legislature, they move as if they're going to be in these seats forever and they continue to ignore our environment and ignore the things that we should be talking about when it comes to making sure that we stay safe and our children have a Florida that they can enjoy like we are. The water quality is one of the biggest environmental issues affecting my district, impacting cities across Miami-Dade and Broward County. So many of our communities are experiencing the aging sewage and drainage systems that lead to the frequent overflows and the contamination. You don't even realize how many cities and municipalities came to my office just this week asking for funding to deal with the aging sewage system that we have in Florida and the flooding issues that continue to lead to the infrastructure damage. Once the bill filing deadline has reached, my team and I will be going through to see which pieces of environmental legislation has been brought forth. There's some proposed legislation that Dave has brought forth that we're waiting to hearing back from bill drafting. And this proposed legislation is the standardized Recycling Labeling Act. And I know, Dave, you probably will speak about this today. But once this bill comes out of drafting, I look forward to whatever type of campaigns should be started for us to move this forward, or at least get a hearing before we can have the conversation. And I'm so, again, happy that we're having this conversation today, that we're here together today, and I'm looking forward to this presentation, Dave, and thank you for taking up this offer for us to come together. And I'll end with this. I am really hoping that this is not the last time we come together, even after the legislative session. It is my hope that we can do this again in person, and let's begin to be proactive as we prepare for the next legislative session and committee weeks to put forth policies that we can work on throughout the year. Thank you again, Dave.
Oh, wonderful. Make sure I'm not on mute.
We can hear you, Dave.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for your opening statement, sir. Now, on to today's agenda. First, we're going to go into some of the bills that are already filed and for this coming session. Then we're going to talk about how the state can help us on items that are not directly related to legislation, but are some environmental funding needs. And we'll do a little Q&A from the audience. We've already received a number of questions via email that we'll go ahead and put in the chat later on. However, we do encourage you to submit any questions. Irela is going to be in charge today. And then Senator Jones will wrap up with any other items he wants to maybe make us aware of, and maybe any guidance and advice on how we can help push some of these good things through. So these are some of the environmental bills that have already been filed for the 2025 session, and we'll go through each of them individually and some of the highlights. And Senator, if there's any that you want to make any comments about as we're going through, or if you just want to save, if you just want me to go through them very quickly, and then you can do your comments at the end. So just
No problem.
just say, all right, like I got something to say on that one.
Okay.
So one of our favorites this year is SB 50, which was introduced by Senator Garcia, which is something which is basically setting guidelines from the state for nature-based methods to improve coastal resilience. Engineers have been asking for this legislation, which aims to strengthen Florida's coastal defenses through sustainable nature-based strategies while promoting the environmental and economic benefits. So what does this do? It establishes guideline and modeling for green and gray infrastructure to reduce flood risk and enhance coastal resilience. Mandate DEP rulemaking to promote nature-based solutions and ecosystem restoration, including mangroves, oyster reefs, and coral reefs, and to conduct a feasibility study on the benefits of nature-based methods for flood protection, insurance cost reduction, and community resilience planning. So this is something that we are really excited about, and this will not only help with the health of the bay, but also lower insurance rates, which is something that is crippling so many across the state. The second one we're really focused on, we're very excited about, is SB 80, which is state land management. And this is really dubbed the State Park Preservation Act, intended to prevent turning our state parks and open spaces into golf courses and theme parks. Basically, this does a couple of things, but really what it does is it brings the public into the conversation so that everybody who appreciates our natural lands and our state parks has a say in whether we put a golf course or pickleball in these state parks. In addition, it does regulate leases, concessions, and permits granted by the Division of Recreation and Parks to maintain oversight and consistency. Two of the things we would like to see added to this, and maybe this is an opportunity for friendly amendments, is first for the state parks to establish a statewide Leave No Trace campaign, which are the 7 principles to enjoy nature responsibly. And so this is just really teaching people about how we protect our natural environment as we're enjoying it. And the second is directing DEP to require vendors and concessionaires to reduce the sale and distribution of single-use plastics to the greatest extent possible, which will reduce the litter and the debris that is on our state parks and entering our bay. The third one is a comprehensive waste reduction and recycling plan. And this is actually on next Tuesday's Environment and Natural Resources meeting. And this legislation aims to enhance Florida's environmental sustainability by promoting effective waste reduction and recycling practices. So this basically is supporting waste diversion efforts. If I'm sure you're very familiar with our waste crisis that's happening in Miami-Dade County right now. And so this one is requiring DEP to develop waste reduction and recycling plan for the state. And this would be an excellent place maybe to just modify um, and incorporate two things. One is update the definition of, and this is a request for a friendly amendment, to update the definition of recovered materials to include composting. Right now, there are no industrial composting facilities within the state of Florida. And composting and um, organic material constitutes about 40% of our waste stream. What is stopping industrial composting? In part, it is Florida legislation that requires composting facilities to basically go through the same rules and protection mechanisms as a landfill would. And so that just increases the cost so significantly, and that is preventing. And so our first friendly amendment is to incorporate um, composting into the definition of recovered materials. The second, and this is where our legislation for standardized recycling labels may slide in, maybe merge. I don't know. But our request is to add standardized recycling label requirements into this legislation. SB 58 is something that we are in favor of, which is requiring, well, basically, this creates a lifetime boating safety identification card issued by the DMV and increases penalties for reckless vessel operation that causes serious bodily injury and strengthens boating under the influence laws and includes yes. So this is something that includes sorry about that. So I was just reading some notes and my notes are wrong. So this is the boating safety. We've had a couple of tragic incidents and people are just going too darn fast in Biscayne Bay. SB 156 is the Safe Waterways Act, which is the title is a little unclear about what this is, but this measure aims to improve the monitoring and management of water quality in our recreational waters. Basically, it is doing more water quality testing and advising people when there are closures. So of beaches. So, there are times when the water is unsafe because there's too much poop in the water. And so this will increase our communication to beachgoers when it is unsafe to go in the water. We do have two ideas that we believe can improve this bill and improve data collection and keep waterways clean. And one of them is to allow third-party nonprofit groups like Surfrider and Miami Waterkeeper to become state certified so that the state will accept their data and incorporate it. We've got some amazing work being done by groups like Surfrider, Miami Waterkeeper, and FIU. And they are testing on a very frequent basis, but unfortunately, the state does not allow them to become certified in a manner that their data is also accepted into this. And so if we can have more eyes on the water, doing water quality testing in, following rigorous testing standards, then we can protect the public even more so. In addition, we would love to see better reporting overall of the percentage or number of days per year that certain beaches are closed so that we can identify the root cause of these closures, whether it's stormwater, whether it's sewage breaks. We need to understand why the waters are being contaminated so that we can have more open days per year of safe swimming. We have SB 388, Trust Funds for Wildlife Management. And this measure aims to provide FWC, Fish and Wildlife, with greater financial flexibility and streamlined operations in managing wildlife resources. So it basically is going to allow them to invest and reinvest funds within the administrative trust fund, and broadens the purpose for which the commission can allocate money from the Florida Panther Research and Management Trust Fund. So those are the legislative items. I don't know if the senator has any comments on any of those. Let me see if he's
I'm here.
unmuted. Fantastic. I didn't know if there was any that you wanted to specifically speak to, or if we wanted to move to if we wanted to recap all of that at the end after we talk about some of the funding opportunities.
I was just going to speak on the bill from Senator Harrell, as far as the use of the parks and the amendment, the friendly amendment that you spoke of. I haven't seen that bill just yet, but I will say if and when that bill does come up, yeah, I have a pretty good relationship with the senator, and maybe this is something that she and I can speak about prior to it coming to committee, to see if she can amend it early on rather than later. As you all know, the earlier we can get an amendment on, the better it is, because she can now talk with her House counterpart.
You have until Monday when it hits, or Tuesday when it hits the first committee stop.
Oh, so the first committee stop is on Monday?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, if you can do me a favor, then Dave, if you can get the language over to, or if Kai, he's already on, I can call the senator this weekend.
Making a note. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Uh, the so now one of the things we want to talk about is we just want to give some input on the real value of Biscayne Bay, not only for the things that many of us on this call care about, but which is, all of the dolphins and the manatees and the birds and the recreational enjoyment. But in 2023, the county updated the Biscayne Bay Economic Study. And this study confirmed that Biscayne Bay generates $64 billion in economic activity every year, which is a whole lot of money. In 2024, it was only $12.7 billion. And so activities on and around the Bay accounted for an estimated 19% of Miami-Dade's economic output, 9% of the Southeast Florida region, and 3% to the state of Florida's economy and tax base. So Biscayne Bay is worth a whole lot more than the mangroves and the manatees, and I think this is why we have seen such broad support across the political spectrum for the protection and recovery of Biscayne Bay. And so this is just the economic data, because a lot of people look at us and realize when they see this that we are a major economic engine of our county and of our state. And so it's really important to protect it, because nobody wants to spend, $1 million on a waterfront property where there's dead fish floating and it's basically a dead bay and it smells like sewage. So I want to introduce everybody to the Environmentally Endangered Lands Program. This is a county program that was approved by voters in 1990. And this is a conservation initiative where the county seeks to preserve land, restore ecosystems, and provide community resilience for the future. So effectively what they do is they identify key wetlands, pine rocklands, areas that we need for Everglades restoration, lands that provide the flow of clean, fresh water from the Everglades into Biscayne Bay. And so it's really cost-effective land acquisition. And they have secured 28,000 acres to date. And we need to invest in land conservation because really, if we don't protect this land, we're never going to fix it. We're never going to fix the Everglades. And so investing in the eel program means protecting very, very specific areas of Florida's environment, economy in the future. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we have 400 million in identified priorities and maintenance needs, but that's $400 million that we don't have. And so Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners adopted an urging requesting funding from the state. It was sponsored by Commissioner Regalado down here. And so we could use some extra dollars to fund the acquisition of wetlands that we know are going to be essential to restore the Everglades, um, to acquire wetlands that are going to clean water before it enters Biscayne Bay and protect our drinking water aquifer from saltwater intrusion. An interesting thing is that eel lands are currently not included on the Florida Wildlife Corridors map. In fact, there is no land in Miami-Dade County that is in the Florida's Wildlife Corridor, and that's a little surprising to us. So we are hoping that you might be able to help advocate for state funding to give us a hand in acquiring these eel lands with money from the Florida Forever program, which is funded by property tax dock stamps. And so this is really important for our county. And then the second is the funding for the Biscayne Bay Water Quality Grant Program. So the legislature and the governor have been very generous in starting to include dedicated funding for Biscayne Bay, but we are receiving a disproportionately low amount of funding. So, for example, Indian River Lagoon, north of us, uh, was allocated $100 million in 2024 and in 2025, but Biscayne Bay only received $20 million in 2024 and 2025. We don't want to be ungrateful. We do not want to say that Indian River Lagoon does not need that money, but boy, would we love some extra funds to help us in our septic to sewer conversion, smart covers to prevent sanitary sewer overflows, infrastructure improvements along Miami-Dade canals, and an interactive database of all Biscayne Bay water quality data.
Dave, can I ask you a question? Was that $20 million, was that state funded or county funded, or was it a joint effort between the state and the county?
State funded.
State funded 20 million? Okay.
The governor just announced that the 2025 funding will include $20 million for Biscayne Bay and
Okay.
$100 million for Indian River Lagoon. And they for sure need that money. I'm not asking for their money. We're asking for an equal allotment.
Okay. And do you know whether or not a feasible a study has been done to see what does fully funded look like for Biscayne Bay?
I don't know. Arella, you're on the call. Do you happen to know the answer to that question?
We haven't done a study that I know of to, I guess, quantify all of the needs, all the water quality projects that are on the list. But I am sure we can probably work with Miami-Dade County, Durham, to do that. I also know that the Biscayne Bay Commission that was created by the state of Florida does have a mandate by that legislation that created them to develop a annual report, and within that annual report, many of the organizations, not just Miami-Dade County, are required to provide information on the projects and the initiatives that they have to improve Biscayne Bay. Not to say that there's an economic accounting of what the entire needs are, but if you just take a look at the needs just to convert septic to sewer, it's in the billions.
Yeah, I can believe it.
You know what I mean? It's so what we're trying to do, Senator, and just to introduce myself, I'm the former Chief Bay Officer for Miami-Dade County. And so what we're trying to do is how can we use this money to really, obviously we need to focus on septic to sewer, but that has to be, priority has to be in the vulnerable areas. The systems are already failing. We're not going to be able to convert everyone. But then there's innovations called smart covers that have already, with little money invested, have already proved, great results. And we've been preventing sanitary sewer overflows, which were pretty much happening on a constant basis. Okay, now the reductions are quite, much lower than they were, and it's just sensor systems that give us the information that we need to prevent some of these things from happening, because those are preventable, right?
Yeah.
So, and DEP, working with DEP and the Biscayne Bay Commission, the county has been able to move a lot of these initiatives that are much more cost effective than, your traditional septic to sewer conversion. So it's a combination of things. Also working with the water management district on some innovative approaches, because as you know, they move water right into the bay, but it comes through many different communities, and there's a lot of pollution that comes into those canals through it. So working with them on seeing how can we treat some of that water before it hits the bay. So there's a lot going on, and I'm sure that you can probably meet with some of the county folks to guide you through.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that that's something that our office would do, in Carrington and Kyle on here, and I think that's why I wanted to see what that number looked like, because I have 6 years left in the legislature, and I think what has been working and what I've seen other representatives and senators do is, like, through a study or us knowing what that number looks like, having the state to work towards it and put money each year behind it. And you have my commitment that, if we know what that number is, then we can put forth that appropriations and work with the county every year to see if they can put that within their budget appropriation so we can speak with each chamber leader to make that case. And the last thing I'll say is the Senate president has made it clear that he wants to fund things that we being the legislature and cities and counties, can show the need for it, and it can be shown that it helps Floridians. And I think that is something that in how our office has been moving. So we'll get with the county, and I'll get with you and Dave, so we can put forth a case to make sure that we have in our possessions as we walk the halls this session.
That's fantastic. And just so that you know, I've met with Senator Auburn a few sessions back, and and you see right there under Biscayne Bay, money will fund interactive database of all Biscayne Bay water quality data. He was the one that initiated that idea for us, because he is doing that in his district.
That's
and
right.
And by having the data, you can tell, well, these projects are actually working. They're really reducing the nutrient and inputs into the bay. So data is very important, and he's very supportive of that. So yeah,
okay. I
definitely get together for sure.
I love it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, Arella. You mind throwing some of those questions in the chat for the senator?
Sure.
And if you want, you can just put all of them in one, and the senator can just answer.
Well, I guess I'll read them out, and if Senator, you feel you have the information to answer or not,
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So I have one from Nicola Meyer. She's the chair of the Sustainability and Resilience Committee for the Village of Miami Shores. Miami Shores Village will replace its seawall. The approved plans call for replacing the current wall, but there is currently no plan to add a living seawall. How can the Miami Shores Village apply for funds to initiate proposals for the addition of a living seawall at a later point? Is there,
so we met, so the mayor and the city manager met with them last week, and they went over their legislative budget priorities with us. And I know this is not something that came up, but I do know that there is a joint agreement with the county that the Village of Miami Shores is in when it comes to the seawall. I do not know where they are in that process, but Nicola, if you want, Kai and Carrington, if you can just put your email address inside the chat so Nicola can have it. Nicola, it'll be good for us to follow back up with you next week. And I will ask that question to see where the county and the village is at on that effort.
Wonderful. Here we have, I'm not sure if it's a question, more of a educational statement perhaps from Bob Sales. Senate Bill 58 should include language that identifies illegal boating charters, charters operating with unlicensed operators and unregulated vessels, and create state criminal charges in addition to federal criminal charges already in place. A legal boating charter is one where the vessel has USCG Coast Guard approved safety equipment and has certain passenger capacity and is operated by the U.S. Coast Guard licensed operator who has passed rigid licensing, safety, and operating requirements. The operator and crew are enrolled in an approved random drug program, and for the vessels that can carry more than 6 paying passengers has a valid Coast Guard certificate of inspection. Illegal charters are a national problem and are a particular problem in Florida. As a year or so ago, an illegal charter was responsible for passengers' deaths. All efforts should be applied to eliminate illegal charters for the safety of those who wish to hire a vessel for whatever reason, fishing, sightseeing, cruising, etc. So that was a mouthful, but we do have not only just an illegal charter issue, but we also have illegal vessels operating commercially on the bay that we've been trying to deal with as well. Dave, you know all about that. We have floating kitchens and all sorts of activities out on the water, and they're definitely not using appropriate packaging, let's just say, and introducing a lot of plastic and pollution into the bay. So next we have Stephen Leitner from Miami Sierra Club. Hello, Senator Jones. The climate crisis is our biggest environmental threat. What can you do legislatively? Can you revisit legislation that funds 50% of the incinerator builds costs, understanding that GHG emissions produced by the incinerator exacerbates climate impacts?
Stephen, first of all, it's good to hear. It's good to hear from you. First, we need to get the legislature to believe that the climate crisis is real first. That's what we need to start at. I do think that there are conversations with the Miami delegation where they understand, many of my colleagues, whether in the Senate or the House, they understand that the climate crisis is a threat to this state, more particularly Miami being ground zero. And I'll be honest with you all, I think not only do we need to do this again, I think after this, and I repeat, after the legislative session, we should bring the Miami-Dade delegation together to just truly talk about the environment. I kid you not, Dave, he put up a good damn case at delegation meeting that day that really warranted me to say, listen, we need to have a larger conversation. So to your point, Stephen, you're right. And I do think we need to get everyone back into the room. And as it pertains to revisiting the legislation, as it pertains to the incinerator build-out costs, I because I don't control the agenda, Stephen, as you know, we can the most that we can do is make the ask. And if you can, I'm okay with you, myself, Dave, and my office getting together to figure out what is the best way to ask that question as it pertains to revisiting with leadership. But I also don't want us to get frustrated when we don't see it right now, because the legislative makeup right now just does not fit what our current agenda is, and they're not looking in that direction. But if there are alternative ways for us to make incremental change, I think we should look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, Senator, I'm going to pipe in on that one because
Please
I think
do.
that, yeah, I think that you brought up a great, a great point. And I've spoken with Stephen about this as well, is that look, nobody wants a landfill next to their community. Nobody wants an incinerator next to their community. And the way in which we really address our waste crisis is through reduction and diversion. And so 40% of our waste stream is organic material, yard waste, or whether it's food waste and food scraps. And so composting provides many benefits, but we don't have a single industrial composting station in Florida because they treat composting the same as a landfill, and it's not. And so, if we really want to get to the root of the waste crisis, we need to look at our waste streams and see how we might be able to mine that material, which is gold. I mean, you get good quality compost, and farmers call that stuff black gold because they can spread it on their farms, their land really inexpensively, and they don't have to buy fertilizers, right? We can reclaim the aluminum and the metals from our soda cans and from our construction debris, and we can make brand new cans and construction material right from that without having to dig it up new from the earth. So I think that a really interesting strategy um, to start having conversations and say, well, look, our waste stream, there's so much valuable material and we just treat it like trash. How can we encourage diversion techniques and reduction techniques that will allow us to reclaim this material and create new economic opportunities that we are making money from this stuff that we don't need in its current form anymore, as opposed to paying to dig it and put it in a hole in the ground or to burn it and release all of the nasty chemicals into the atmosphere. So maybe that's a helpful approach.
Well, we still have some more questions in the chat, Dave. Do you want me to?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Senator, this is from Josh Sproat. Will you support and champion a direct appropriation of $100 million as a one-time multi-year commitment to fund land acquisition in Miami-Dade County, shore up our local conservation program, and support Everglades restoration and enhanced resilience to severe weather?
Hey, Joshua, I would love to do that. As you all know, this we do not get the leverage to put forth appropriations, especially not for the county. The county, the mayor and county commissioners, they will have to have that a part of their legislative agenda. Will I support it? Absolutely. But the biggest thing is this is the prime time to speak to your county commissioner or even speak to the mayor about the support of that. But again, if it came forth, I would absolutely support it.
Great. The next one's from Kevin Coyne, and this one was from our last session, but it's very relevant to this session as well. The last legislative session, a very important component of the Clean Waterways Act was finalized and passed, the statewide stormwater rule, which will greatly expand the scope of treatment of stormwater in urban areas of the state and areas surrounding Biscayne Bay. There is now concern from many in the stormwater community that this session may see groups trying to weaken the impacts of the now fully adopted stormwater rule. And I wanted to know if you had any recommendations for folks to help support all the work that has been put into getting this important piece of legislation passed last year and ensure that outside groups don't further weaken the environmental programs and regulations key to protecting and restoring Biscayne Bay and many other waters of the state.
Yeah, I would say to hammer the Miami-Dade delegation because we were all unified in that. And I also would say that to connect with those legislators who have similar communities to Miami-Dade County. That would be my biggest recommendation. But remember, I think the biggest biggest flex that we have in Tallahassee right now is that the Speaker of the House is from Miami-Dade County. That is our biggest flex we have right now. And I absolutely think we should use it to our advantage, and to make sure that that as far as even from environmental groups on down to any other group, that we should making sure that we have Danny Perez's ear. So that would be my highest recommendation.
Great. The next question is from Dave Dobler. The volumes of plastic entering our oceans through our stormwater systems is tragic. Some cities have taken action to restrict the most problematic plastics like styrofoam from our beaches, but every year the Florida Retail Association and the industry push statewide preemptions. Will you work against statewide plastics preemptions, and what role do you think the state has in addressing the marine debris problem?
Hell yes, I will absolutely. Period. Point blank. Yes, I will. But it also doesn't make it doesn't make it easy of what President Trump just did, as far as when it comes to plastic, right? Because he begins to create a narrative to where many of the Republicans sometimes don't want to push back on that, and I think in Miami-Dade County that we're in a very unique position, especially when it comes to not just tourism, but we're seeing this rise in this pollution within our waters. We went out to the water. We being myself, and we invited the Miami-Dade delegation in our district to go out to look at the pollution and to look at our waters and to look at the derelict vessels, and to be able to convince our colleagues on the importance of why we need to be taking a more proactive approach in a lot of these things. So, Dave, to your point, we must continue to push and use the power that we have with the legislators that we have in Miami-Dade County, to talk about the importance of it, as we are doing right now, but not just with me, but also with other individuals.
One of the things that we're going to try to do is actually set up a Miami-Dade delegation cleanup where we can all go out and, just like you guys did on your boat ride, that we can all go have a nice day cleaning up an area and really just seeing firsthand just how much plastic is in our bay. And so if we can line that up with the speaker, we'd love to have you join us. I know you've come out before. I know you are very aware of the issue, and I
Yeah.
don't need to tell you, but hopefully we can make that happen.
Absolutely, and to this group, I want you all to to tell you something else that happened on that, when we were on that trip, out on the water, is really how I came up with the my bill on derelict vessels. When we were out there, we were seeing the amount of pollution that was out there, and I was able to even get our chair for the Miami-Dade delegation, Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez, to speak with the Senate President and the Speaker to possibly be in support of my derelict vessel bill. When as I was working on the bill through bill drafting, some people they couldn't believe. They're like, "Chev, you have lost your damn mind that you're about to put forth a boat bill." But I think we all can agree that, I mean, something has to be done. I mean, right now we know that the bill. And we're looking to address the abandoned and the neglected boats that's in the waterways, but we knew that we were coming up to a property rights issue, and we think that we have put it in a posture to where we can deal with the property rights issue, to where it gives law enforcement can tag the vessels for removal, and the owners must comply within 21 days or face penalties. But listen to this: how we dealt with the environmental issue was that within those 21 days, if it's found to be an environmental risk, that gives the law enforcement the ability to remove the vessel. So that is how we got around the issue of dealing with individuals saying that, well, it's a property rights issue. If it becomes an environmental risk, now we have leverage to move it. So our biggest thing now is, if I can ask you all to support me on anything, it would be on my bill on derelict vessels. Because I
You
believe
got
it's
it.
gonna be a fight.
You got it.
Yeah, you got it. This is something that a lot of people in South Florida are aware of, and I didn't see that this bill had come out. I wasn't aware that you were drafting this, and this is fantastic. And I think that this is something that everybody will be able to get behind, including, we have close connections with the people who actually remove the derelict vessels and understand some of the challenges that they face in actually removing the vessels. And a
Yeah.
lot of it is also just, kind of programmatic how FWC does it. And so I'd love to review this legislation and help you champion it. So Kai, please let me know when this comes out.
Yeah, and Dave, just so you all know, we are the one thing that we're waiting for. We're just waiting for some edits to come back from Miami Beach. But if you all can help me with one thing, is just be nice to Representative Mooney, because he's very close to sponsoring it down in Key West. If you all can just ask him, shoot him an email, and just ask him if he can be the sponsor of this bill in the House. I'm almost sure we can get it across the finish line. But I just need some voices and some coalitions to help us get a House sponsor for it. And Representative Mooney is close to sponsoring it.
Is he aware of this bill
Oh
already?
yeah, he's aware of it. He's
All
aware.
right, great. Is there a
We
bill
just
number, or
we,
you don't know
we
yet?
Dave, we just got to show how many derelict vessels Monroe County is dealing with as well.
Yes, I've spoken with Rep Mooney about other issues, and he seems very amiable
Yes, he is.
to solving these problems.
Yes.
Yes, he's very supportive.
Thank you. That's excellent.
Okay, we have another question. I think we have time for maybe two more. Michelle Drucker asked, will you be willing to submit a friendly amendment to add composting as a definition in the recoverable materials into Senate Bill 200, which is called the Comprehensive Waste Reduction and Recycling Plan, to fix the state flaw that is preventing the expansion of composting throughout the state?
Michelle, can you send it over to my office? Well, I don't mind speaking with Senator Berman about that. Send it over to me, and I also will talk to the senator about it.
Yeah, Senator, we're gonna go ahead and share all of this with you.
Oh, good,
and the
good.
recording as well. So
Okay,
you have it.
thank you all so much.
Yeah. Another question from Maddie Kaufman, Debris Free Oceans. Hi, Senator Jones. Thanks so much for this meeting. Apologies for not being more prepared for this question. And I love Maddie dearly. She's so cute. But it just came to mind when thinking about our waste streams. I believe in California, K through 12 schools could apply for state funding to support building washing infrastructure and switch to reusable trays, utensils, etc., preventing millions of single-use plastics. Is there a state funding mechanism, something that could be explored in Florida? There's also a nonprofit plastic-free restaurants that will pay for all of the reusable serviceware for schools across the US. That's great information.
That is very good information. First, I'll say I will not, nothing in the legislation I will lead with California on first. That's first, Maggie. Yeah, I know. I'm sure you will get a kick out of that. But the second thing I'll say is that you mean the restaurant and lodge, and I'll just be very transparent. The restaurant and lodging lobby in Tallahassee is very strong, and practically do not want to move anything. I'm prone to always say no, that something won't happen, because I have seen Democrats, even myself, get things across the finish line where it may not be how we want it in totality, but moving incrementally could be something that we can do. And so, Maggie, what I will say is that I am absolutely on board with you and I doing a Zoom together before the legislative session start to figure out what does that look like. And it might not be totally what we want, but it could be something that we can work towards.
That's great. And I think, Dave, we already have an answer to your question. Are there any priorities of your senator this session that we can help support in collaboration? And I think we covered that with your derelict vessel bill.
Yes, that'd be very big. Yes.
So that's top on our agenda for sure.
Thank you.
Now it's all yours again, Dave.
Yeah, I think we have hit the 12 o'clock hard stop that we all have. I want to thank Senator Jones for asking for this meeting and this conversation, and for just being so generous with his time and guidance on this. We wish everybody a fantastic weekend. We have two housekeeping items. Senator, whenever you need to drop, please feel free to go ahead and do so. We are incredibly grateful for your time and advocacy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you. And Dave, I just want to tell you, thank you so much for having me. Listen, yeah, it's for even for pulling this call together. And as I stated on the beginning of the call, I really, let's not let this be the last time we discuss environmental legislation together. The Bay is instrumental to Miami-Dade County, is instrumental in my district. And it's also instrumental to our economy. And regardless of what happens this legislative session, I really want to make sure we continue this conversation on preserving and protecting our Bay. And as it pertains to legislation that was discussed today, my office will continue to track these pieces of legislation and review some of the proposed friendly amendments that you all presented. And my office will also, we will be championing, excuse me, legislation for this legislative cycle, the two bills that brought forth by Dave, as well as legislation that tackles the derelict vessels as we spoke about. So I thank you all for joining today and engaging with me, and I hope to see some of you in Tallahassee. So again, thank you, Dave.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Anybody who would like to come splash with us, we have we're going out next Sunday, and we're bringing the Boston Cupid Splash down to Miami. Every year they jump in 38-degree water in order to raise money for Boston Harbor, and we are going to do the same thing, but fortunately it's going to be a very brisk 68 degrees, which is for us Floridians ridiculously cold as well. So if you would like to either come splash with us next Sunday or help us raise money, we'd love to see you out on the beach on 38th, on Collins Park Beach. And I've posted the link in there. And if anybody wants to stay in the know with the Biscayne Bay Marine Health Coalition, I will also put this this in the chat to where you can sign up for our newsletter. And if anybody would like to find or organize a cleanup near you, go ahead to volunteercleanup.org. Somebody in the chat had asked for a copy of this presentation, so I'm going to put it in the chat here in just a second. So feel free to stick around if you want a copy of this presentation, and I'll give you a link where you can download it. Just got to give me a second to hit the share button. Otherwise, thank you everybody for your time and for spending your morning having this great conversation with us. And we hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and it's a gorgeous day. So go enjoy the Bay if you have some time. Thank you. Give me a second for that file here.
You start recording?
You can stop recording.
Okay.
Yes, please.